our listeners and viewers out there, and I hope we are going to have 1 hour of good interactive session.
Viewers, because we're also on the internet via YouTube. We also have Mr. Nicholas Opio, a legal consultant at Akijul, also a social and political analyst. You're most welcome, Mr. Opio.
Thank you very much, Edmond, and good evening, listeners, and all of you who are viewing us on the internet.
We also have Mr. Vincent Mayanja, former journalist, now Deputy Secretary General of the Democratic Party. You're most welcome, Mr. Mayanja.
Thank you, Edmond. I'm still a journalist, you know.
Once a journalist, always a journalist.
Yes, and I want to salute our listeners and viewers.
Well, the KCCA Tinyefuza standoff, the biggest story of the week has been the standoff between the coordinator of intelligence agencies, David Tinyefuza, a general, one of the 5 generals, I believe, and Kampala City Council Authority Executive Director, Jennifer Musi, over the house that is supposed to be the mayor's residence. It all began when Musisiri served the general with a notice of eviction. Now, General Tinyefuza says he took over this house for security concerns. When Radio 1 contacted General Tinyefuza to comment, he indicated he would arrest the executive director if she pushes on with these plans. He has given him a deadline. Today, the UPDF has confirmed that negotiations are going on in this matter, disassociating itself from any remarks made by General Tinyefuza and his aide. So we would like to know, Mr. Opio, who do you think is likely to win in this case?
Well, I think beyond the question of winning or not, because the owners of the house, are known that that building belongs to KCCA. There is no question about it, and what belongs to KCCA will always be theirs. But I think beyond the question of who is going to win, I think quite clearly some mistakes have been made. I think in addressing the house that is occupied by the coordinator of security, I forget his title. Intelligence services. You must differentiate that from the occupation by Nasa Tege Sebagala. These are 2 different situations. In the Sebagala case, Sebagala had owned the house, claimed to have owned the house.
Yes.
He claimed ownership. Whereas in the case of David Tinyefuza, he's not occupying the house as a person. The house is actually an office for the coordinator of intelligence services. My gut feeling is that the office was given to his office, not to his person. I'm quite sure he lives in Naguru, where I drive every day and see his house. So I think that there must be a difference. But I do think that the mistake that was made was for the hard-working and well-intentioned executive director of KCCA to demand for the house from Tinyefuza. I think I agree with the arguments that have been put in the press that she should have written to the Minister of State for Security, who I think are the persons who have ownership or have occupation of the house, not to the person of General David Tinyefuza. At best, he could have just been copied. But that said, I think that the arrogance of the response from the office of David Tinyefuza, I think for me was a bit startling, because the constant reminder that we have fought many wars, the threats of arrest.
Which is true.
I mean, he has fought many wars, but you don't have to put it across our faces every time. We didn't send you to fight this war, really, in the first place. So I think that the response was a bit too arrogant. It was a bit too rough-edged. And I think that he should have responded better by simply directing the ED to address her concerns to the rightful authorities. Because the work that Tinyefuza is doing in that house is, I think, a work for this country. And I think we need to appreciate that and respect that. You can't just walk in like we walked in on Sebagala and evicted him. The guy has sensitive security information.
Right.
But he should have been a little bit more humble, a little bit more calm in his response.
Well, but of course, it also brings out to the light, into the light, that it's not a house that he occupied as an individual.
Yeah.
When they photographed the back of it, it looked a little bit dilapidated.
Yeah.
Honorable Sebalu.
Yeah, I partly agree with the thoughts of my good friend here. But for me, I think the whole mistake about this subject is to transact it in the media. I don't know why they have chosen to transact in the media. because even the executive director, this is pure an administrative undertaking. Like he has indicated, you write to the ministry because occupation is not of private use, it is of official use. So you definitely raise the issue of ownership, which is known to the relevant ministry, and then through administrative arrangements, you can work out, because definitely the Ministry of Defense can opt to go into rent arrangements for a period of time as they work out modalities of relocating that office to another place. But the idea of going out and evicting Tinyefuza, now it became a little personal, and I think that's why the reaction has also taken a bit of a personal nature.
Maybe that's the impression that was available. Maybe thought, they would find his clothes, and just like they found mayors.
I think there was
It
also
was an office, probably.
there was also some excitement arising out of the successful eviction of Sebagala, the person. Now they use the same approach.
Some of his fetishes.
They use the same approach as if even in this case they are dealing with an individual who has claimed ownership, because here there is no claim of ownership at all.
Yeah.
It is an official use and the transactions need to be official. But there's also something. Some of these kind of responses, some of them are not directly from David Tinyefuza General. They are quoted from ADs. There are cases where I've been reading an AD quoting, and I think...
Well, speaking on behalf of Tinyefuza.
Well, the principal and the agent.
You see, that is bound to create some bit of misrepresentation.
Well, he hasn't come out
yeah, he hasn't come down, but I find it irregular. If there is a written statement, that is something different. But if you make statements of a personal nature quoted by an individual, because I could be in the studios here and I raise something and someone replies jokingly, then for you pick it and then you use it as subject of formal communication, which can create misrepresentation, because we can be in here and you say, no, Mike, stop that rubbish, and it is a joking thing. Then if someone
just
went
to be
out,
fair to the media, just to be fair to the media, I think they've reported what was said. Those statements have not been denied nor retracted. If the general thought that his AD said something out of the line that he didn't believe in, he should have come out to retract.
No. What I want to say, and I'm not blaming anyone, but if I were the one, I find more credible position from the Radio 1 when they say we called him and he said this. If I were the one, I wouldn't quote someone through a third party, although even that possibility is there. I would prefer to get a comment from the principal, and then I'm able. But the mistake is that this thing has gone in the media as if it is, to me it is not a big thing. It is a small administrative matter with good communication at official level. This is something that should be sorted out, and there shouldn't be a question of a winner and a loser, because ownership is known and occupancy is known. It is all at official level. It's a question of when and how in an administrative way to have it sorted out.
And of course, as we come to Mr. Mayanja, of course, Tinyefuza has been exonerated. He's not laying claim to the house. He's not saying I painted it so I should own it or whatever, like the former case. So, and we now know that he's not living in it with his chickens and other things. Mr. Mayanja.
Well, Edmond, I think what we need to know is that why we are saying this is what I've condemned always: street leadership.
Street leadership?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Well, why do you, if you are really conducting official duties, why do you go on the streets and tell everybody that I'm doing this?
What do you mean?
Because the KCCA should have communicated to the relevant.
They wrote him a letter, he replied.
Well, that should have remained between the two parties.
The media picked it up.
Well, that is very unfortunate. How did it pick? How was it picked?
It was on the internet. Yes.
But let me tell you, Edmond. I think, first of all, I agree with my colleagues that the way they communicated was very wrong.
What do you mean? They wrote a letter to the man?
Yeah, they should, they are the one who first personalized this issue. They should have written to the relevant ministry, and then the ministry would direct them that you handle it this way, because they are all in government. KCCA is now under President's office, which is part of government. And Tinyefuza is working under the ministry, either Minister of Security or Minister of Defense. They should have handled it at that level. So it is very, very wrong. But having said that, I think the reaction of General Tinyefuza is very unfortunate. If really what they are quoting is really from General Tinyefuza, he should know, he should be reminded that he's just a security officer.
He's also fought some
and is not the Minister of Security or Defense. He's not the spokesperson of the government. If he saw such a thing, he didn't have even the authority to answer back. He should have forwarded
it. We have only 5 generals.
Forwarded it to the relevant ministry, and it will be up to the ministry to handle it the way it should be handled. Then secondly, what I wanted to end with, I think, I sympathize with General Tinyefuza, but the language he is using no longer have place in the politics of this country.
Oh, really?
That I will arrest that person?
Yes.
Are you the police?
Are you the law? Officially in the letters, I wish you would have
I think that would be unfortunate, and it shouldn't have happened.
Remark.
Yeah. Well, incidentally, the man is fighting 2 women, the executive director, but also, and I don't want to downplay this, the Minister of the Presidency has since written to David Tinyefuza and warned him, according to one of the newspapers. Honorable Kabakumba Masko has asked the general to opt for dialogue instead of a militant approach. Very briefly around the table, Mr. Opio, how do you think it's likely to end?
Well, KCCA is going to get back its house. I mean, that's a given. You can't deny that. I mean, I think that it will take a long time, though. That will take a lot of negotiations.
60 days?
I don't know how long, but it will take negotiations for them to leave the house.
But when you say it is going to get back its house, I don't think that pertains. I think there is no question about maybe use of its house or reoccupy. Yeah. Because I've not seen anywhere, even within these correspondences, where the ownership of the house is contested. Yeah. It is usage and occupation.
But Edmond, so I think the legal regime we have allows the state to take over any property in the interest of security, in the interest of everybody.
Right.
And when you are doing that, you have to enter into negotiations with the occupants, with the owners, to find out how you can really occupy it.
Yes.
You don't just come and take it over. So what I think is going to happen is that the government is going to engage KCCA and show them the rationale of security occupying that house. And I think everybody will see sense and say yes. But what is going to happen is that there will be agreements that these are the terms.
They don't really have to be there. It's not Summit View, where it's, for instance, there's Okello House, which was built by a private individual.
Well, I don't know what they saw in this house.
They rented him. State House has been paying money. And we have to move away from Tinyefuza. Is it that this story was, I think, broken by Radio 1? It was Tinyefuza was interviewed by Radio 1, and then the story came out. Let's move on now. Mr. Opio, the censure plans against the Deputy Speaker. Is it the opposition in Parliament has says it plans to boycott all sittings chaired by the Deputy Speaker, Jacob Oulanyah, even if they fail to censure him. They say they don't trust him because they allege he has become partisan after he attended a meeting for NRM legislators that President Museveni is rushed to their home. They say this is part of the wider plans by the NRM to bring to Parliament a bill that aims at restricting bail some suspects, which include rioters. A move that the opposition says is basically aiming at opposition politicians. What do you think is likely to happen? It's also facing bribery accusations. What do you think is going to happen to this gentleman?
A few words are being thrown here that needs clarification. First and foremost, Parliament cannot censure the Speaker of Parliament. The rules of procedure and the law provide for removal of the Speaker from office, not censure.
Right.
Censure is a different thing. If you censure, you actually condemn.
You find fault with.
You find fault, but you cannot then relieve them from the office by an act of censure. So I think what Parliament has,
and even the grounds for censure and the process for censure
is different,
and the constitutional provision for that attends to a different thing altogether. It does not apply to this case.
Right. So the Speaker cannot be censured. However, they can actually move a vote of no confidence to remove the Speaker from the office. The rules of procedure provide for that.
Right.
The rules of procedure provides for that under, I think, Rule 90 of the rules of procedure. So I think that first and foremost, they can only remove the Speaker through a vote of no confidence. So can they remove the Deputy Speaker by vote of no confidence? My view is no. Precisely because, one, they don't have the numbers in Parliament to move a vote of no confidence against the Speaker. Secondly, the procedure for removing the Speaker under Rule 93 of the Parliamentary Rules of Procedure requires, first of all, a notification of the office of the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker, whatever the case is, of the intention to move a vote of no confidence, and must be given 7 days in advance, and must have the support of 1/3 of all members of Parliament.
Yes.
Now, once that notice is received, that notice is then put on the order paper and requires that before it is even moved as a motion and agreed, it must receive the support of 2/3 of all members of Parliament.
Yes.
Now, just do your mathematics. The opposition cannot raise those numbers. The only way they can raise that number is by convincing members of the NRM to abandon their own and vote against him.
Is that likely?
Which is highly unlikely. Thirdly, there are grounds for removal of the president. The president can be removed, not censured. But there are no grounds for the removal of the Speaker in the rules of procedure. It is not there.
Right.
It is simply not there. My guess is because the removal is based on lack of confidence. It is based on confidence, perceived confidence of members of Parliament. Now, if the opposition can demonstrate that that confidence has been lost, and they can convince members of the NRM, then they can remove the Speaker or Deputy Speaker from office. In the circumstances, it is unlikely. Fourthly, I think the question of the ethics, the question of the role of the Speaker in a multi-party Parliament does not seem to be clear. The rules of procedure or the Constitution do not require the Speaker to be impartial. It's not there.
Yes.
I have looked through the Constitution, is right here.
So
I have seen the rules of procedure of Parliament.
Right.
It does not anywhere require the Speaker to be impartial.
He can come wearing his yellow gowns every day.
Exactly, because the Speaker retains their parliamentary seat.
True.
They retain party membership.
True.
You cannot deny them the right to participate in party membership. The law is silent on that. The practice, however, the norm that has over time been built is that the Speaker should be impartial, the Speaker should not take part in party activities.
Caucus meeting.
But that is not the command of the law.
Right.
It is a discretion of the individual holding the office of the Speaker or Deputy Speaker.
Was it right for Mr. Olanya to go to that meeting?
Two things. I don't know what the content of that meeting is, but I do think that the practice, the norm that has been developed over time, that the Speaker should not be seen to be, to be partisan, to be taking part in party caucus meetings.
He shouldn't have gone.
He should not have actually gone if that meeting was a caucus meeting. But I also think that in order to avert this, perhaps there is need for us to look at a constitutional reform process that clearly defines the role of the Speaker in a multi-party politics. In other countries like Tanzania, the Speaker ceases to be an MP or loses their seat upon election as a Speaker.
But they can also come from outside of Parliament.
They can also come outside of Parliament in that case. But here, it's not the case. Perhaps we might want to begin a thinking process in reforming our Constitution to provide for such arrangements to protect the Speaker. Secondly, I think we need to define the roles of MPs and roles of the Speaker. That role seems to be implied and not expressly stated in the law. There is a Constitutional Court case pending judgment before the Constitutional Court to define what exactly are the functions of members of Parliament.
Right.
Because the Constitution provides for broad functions, legislating law for the peace development of this country. But the specifics of it is not there. The same will apply to the Speaker.
How much more Speaker can it get?
I mean, you've had MPs going and saying they are monitoring government programs, getting money from the state.
Or including NADS.
Including NADS, Water, Karamoja. I think that is wrong. I think we need to define exactly. During elections, MPs go and promise health centers. They can't deliver health centers. It is not their work.
Right.
It is not their
I
role.
could lobby for them.
There must be a command of the law specifically stating the functions of members of parliament.
Is it really necessary?
But also outlining,
But,
I think, the conduct of the speaker in a parliament such as this. And I think that a code of ethics, in the same manner that other countries like Bulgaria have, on the speaker's role is very important.
So basically, they could have a code of ethics without having to, just like they have rules of procedure. Each house has its own rules of procedure.
Yeah.
They could have a code of ethics. Like
there is a code of
there
is a code of conduct for members of parliament. I'm talking about the office of the speaker. That is not there.
These are one of the gymnastics you get in a democratic process, you know, because someone talks of censuring. My understanding is that a person who is elected, an elective post, cannot be a subject of censure.
Right.
It can only be
for a minister or president,
where then you raise certain issues to appointing authority, and the effect of your recommendation is that you should relieve this person of their duties because of ABCD. But this is an office that is occupying by virtue of an electoral process in which he got the mandate of the entire house.
Yes.
So a small section of that cannot withdraw that mandate through censure.
They could galvanize.
That is one point. That,
if I just bolster your points.
That is one.
The result of a censure under the rules of procedure of a minister is a recommendation to the president.
Yeah.
Not a removal from the office.
You could ignore it.
So the discussion.
And I've just said that the effect of which is to bring it to the attention of the appointing authority. This person is no longer desirable. But at the end of the day, the decision to withdraw confidence or not remains with the appointing authority. So it does not have effect. Secondly, the meeting that is claimed to have been a caucus meeting. I was in that.
Before I go to that, you need to make it very clear that censure doesn't apply to the speaker. What applies to the speaker is removal from office.
That is the implication of what I said, because if censure is to do with the recommendation, then you recommend to who? Because if you are the members of parliament and you are recommending to yourselves,
and you don't even have
so you can only withdraw your confidence in the speaker through a vote of no confidence, and it is clear. And so the censure and the terminology that is being applied, you can see there is a bit of excitement. Someone has not even gotten seriously on the ground rules to know how this process can be undertaken to be successful.
I was here at a press conference, an MP citing removal of MPs from parliament as a ground for removal of a speaker.
But even then, the provision for that and the procedures you go through, the petitions. There's something regarding the caucus, that he attended the caucus meeting. I was in Rajtura.
And you didn't see his face?
And he was there, definitely. But this was not a caucus meeting. This was a field visit that involved, going to visit model farmers, people who are transforming society. It was a field tour to do with efforts and the need for us as leaders to work on transformation. Now, what was a party caucus was the meeting that was in Entebbe, and he was never there. So for someone to jump on that, I think is too speculative and a bit misdirected and misguided.
Maybe the trip was pure.
Mr. Manja, before we go.
Well, I would just say that, this strengthens our earlier stand that we should have a law in place. And I think my friend has already articulated that. To have a law that bars a member of parliament from being a speaker. That if a speaker is elected, as a member of parliament is elected as a speaker, he ceases to be a member of parliament.
Not a person who wants to come
because you have to sympathize with this man, and the constitution says that somebody has a right to profess any political faith. He is a member of parliament from Omoro, and he stood on an NRM ticket. And if you start questioning that, I think you have lost the debate.
We're going for a break.
What I would suggest.
We'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you for coming to the executive suite, madam. My name is Richard, your executive banker, and I'm here to handle all your banking needs.
Oh, really? Thank you. I noticed you don't have any queues here.
No, Mrs. Asio, we do not.
Oh, wow. You even know my name?
But of course, madam. Today we are offering you a current account with a Gold Visa debit card, home loans with attractive rates, Gold Visa credit cards, and unsecured personal loan.
All that for me?
Yes. In addition, we can offer you internet banking so that you can access our services from anywhere, even your home.
Oh, this is too much. What else will you give me now? Chai?
Experience executive banking at Stanbic Bank.
Excuse me, madam. Your cup of chai?
Ask about executive banking at your nearest branch or visit our executive banking suite in Nakasero Towers, Forest Mall at Lugogo, Garden City, Ntinda, Makerere, Mbarara, Mukono, Mbale, Lira and Gulu.
Stanbic Bank. Moving forward.
The art of crafting a jewel as experienced by the brewmaster.
Under the exacting international standards at Now Breweries, he uses only the finest, most carefully selected grains of roasted crystal malt and sets in motion the delicate process of releasing their full roast. The result is a world-class beer with a fresher aroma, a richer golden color, and a maltier taste. It isn't every day that you find yourself with a precious jewel in your hand and